All right, welcome to the next episode of Series Baat, friends. We have had three interesting sessions so far on the video podcast format, and I think the response we gave us was very good. So in the fourth episode, we have an equally interesting topic on leadership, social entrepreneurship, and we have a very interesting guest, Mr. Yugant. He's from Nagpur and he's a social entrepreneur, and he's been in this field for quite a long time, and he's had a very good experience in dealing with many aspects of this topic. So Yugant, over to you for the first introduction. You can give us a brief intro about your perspective, whatever you have started off, and then you can go into the issue of what social entrepreneurship actually is. So over to you.
Thank you, Pawan and Lovepreet, for inviting me to see the bath. And it is my indeed pleasure to be here today. And there is a small joke that I always try to tell a lot of my friends that not a lot of people invite me to speak these days because I love to speak about what's real and what are the challenges which not a lot of people really like to hear about. So I thought the name of the podcast that you guys are organizing, Seedhi Baat, is quite interesting. And I thought it's a platform for me to say what's in my heart and what's in my mind. So first of all, thank you guys for having me. And to all the listeners and viewers of this podcast, let me tell you some short, brief introduction about myself. So my name is Yugant and I am basically from Nagpur. I'm the secretary of RTM Technical and Education Society, which is running professional institutions for professional social work. And we are also running various central and state government projects like old age home and technical education for physically challenged people and schools for humble background students. Also, I'm working as a CEO of Upreneur Private Limited, which is a youth-centered social enterprise where we engage young people on social issues. We have our flagship projects, and the whole idea is to nurture 1 million socially responsible leaders by 2030. So this is the brief of work that I am working on right now.
Okay, so I want Yugant, to elaborate on what social entrepreneurship is to start with. And then eventually I'll be asking you some real questions which probably are left unanswered for people. They usually, the fancy term leadership has to be decoded. But before that, just tell me, what is social entrepreneurship according to you?
Well, I think social entrepreneurship is one of the new trending jazzy terms that we hear every day these days. And it has become the new trend for a lot of young people to add it to their profile on LinkedIn and Facebook, as equally as people used to add founders and CEOs and entrepreneurs when it was in trend couple of years back. But I think as the name says it, and it comes with a lot of responsibility as well. So to define what really social entrepreneur is, that social entrepreneurship is as exactly as entrepreneurship, like businesses that go in a particular manner or particular way, but adding a lot of values to it is the main intention of it. So doing usual businesses with a lot of innovation, adding resources to it, adding a lot of creativity, and making sustainable solutions for the better value product is what really social entrepreneurship is about. If you ask me to give two brief spectrum of social entrepreneurship, then they might be, there are two models of social entrepreneurship, if I want to put it that way. So one of the model is that which completely operates on grants and donations. So there are NGOs, there are civil service organizations who work on grants and donations. And then another part of it is for profit, right? So there are NGOs which work for profit, which make sustainable products, and those products add value also. So those are valuable products, and they just do not add value, but they also make a better living for someone. So that's more or less is all about social entrepreneurship. And my objective of working in this field that why I'm choosing. So a lot of people ask me that you are young, you really need to, don't worry about social issues. There are a lot of people, there is government, there are policies, there are big NGOs. But I think every small person can make a difference, and why I opted to work in this particular field is something interesting, because I wanted to influence the thinking of young people to a relevance where they add value to everything that they do in their life.
Yugant, I can see quite a lot of books behind you, so I think you're quite a reader, and that must have helped you a lot, to add to your knowledge. That's why you're able to give such precise, clear, and meaningful answers, I should say. Thank you so much for the wonderful answer. Well, this brings me to my next question. Leadership is a buzzword these days. We all love to be called leaders, but we also at the same time think that only if we are affiliated to some political party, or if we own a seat in a state or in the government or in whatever, only then we can be leaders. Also, I think leader is a very misunderstood word, especially by the youth of today. I want you to make us understand this. Tell us what leadership actually is, and how can a normal person like us, like you, can be a leader?
I think it's a very good question, and thank you for asking me very straightforward question, because I think a lot of truth might come out of this question. So first of all, uh, what I really say, and why I also choose to work on this idea of leadership, talk to people about leadership, is that we are going through a leadership crisis. The whole world is going through a leadership crisis right now. And I would say we are going through a pandemic of leadership. I would not, I would agree with that, because we see a systematic failure is happening, right? We see there are social problems every day rising in our life. So you wake up, you read a newspaper every day, and you see rapes happening, violence happening, corruption happening, and these are the signs of systematic failure. So what I really understand is that the current people who are or I should say the current men who are in charge, who associate or identify themselves as leader, have failed us, number one. And I think we have put more incompetent men out there whom we address or identify as leaders. So most of the time when we speak about leadership, we associate manly traits, right? So we associate leadership, or the idea, the narrative, the basic idea of leadership is that a powerful person is leader. A person who has authority can only become a leader. Leadership comes with position. So these are the normal narrative that we hear in everyday life about leadership. But I think leadership is more about doing small things. It is about small actions. It is about everyday thing that you do in your life. And I believe that everyone has the potential to become a leader. And I think leadership is more of a choice, that whether you want to become a leader or you do not want to become a leader, it's your choice. There is no compulsion that everybody should become a leader. So there is a challenge in front of us, and I want through this podcast and I want to address to young people that they should make it a choice to become a leader. Because through this podcast, I'll also tell them that leadership is a skill. It's a very learnable thing, and you can actually incorporate that as an indispensable factor in your life, which will give you benefit in every spectrum of your life. And to simplify this, I'll tell you that leadership is not about all those big words that we hear. It's not about vision. It's not about power. It's not about authority. But it's about doing small things in everyday life. It's about doing small actions for good, right? And to give you an example, leadership is as simple as brushing your teeth, right? Now it really sounds very funny that a huge term, 15,000 more than 15,000 books have been written on leadership, and leadership is as simple as brushing your teeth. So most of the people, that's why do not invite me to speak. But let me tell you that leadership is as simple as brushing your teeth, because this might seem to us as a small action that we do every day, twice a day for 2 minutes. But brushing your teeth has a big impact on your life, right? It has a lot of impact. So exactly, leadership is like that. You need to practice it for 2 minutes every day in your whole life. Because leadership is not like you go to a workshop or you read a book and you become a leader.
Right.
Leadership is a process that is internalizing yourself, being more aware of things that you do, being more accountable to the things you do, and caring for people who are there around you. That's what true leadership is for me.
Well, Yugant, I think this is a wonderful answer because we usually misunderstand leadership in a lot of ways. We compare it with authoritativeness and dictatorship. And I would say, very honestly, I always wanted to be into civil services just because my parents told me that you'll have the power to change your society, change your district, to change your state. But I think more than power, it's stress. And once you get into that position, what just covers your brain is how can I earn more, how can I probably increase in terms of position. Then the real feeling of doing seva or doing social services goes away. The meaning of social service goes away. So talking to you, I think a lot of people like me who think that they want to change the society for better, they want to contribute with their skills and with their knowledge to change someone's life. Even if one person is transformed with their knowledge or their help, then probably you can say you're a social leader. And you necessarily don't have to be on a big position with those red sirens on your car ringing and the whole crowd stopping for you to let you go. That's not leadership. Very true. Well, if this is not leadership, Yugant, what is leadership according to you? If you had to define leadership in one sentence or maybe a word or maybe a habit, or maybe just like you said, once you start practicing leadership, it becomes your routine, it becomes your habit, it becomes your character. So what according to you is leadership, true leadership?
I have, as you can see, and you mentioned that there are a lot of books, and this habit of reading books is missing with a lot of young people these days. And my mentor helped me. My mentor, Dr. Abhijit Pathak, he helped me to cultivate this habit of reading books. I was not a very voracious reader, but with time, I learned and I realized that you really need to have a mentor or someone who would hold your hand and show you the right way towards it. Now, in my journey of learning more about leadership, so I have worked on actual ground with NGOs, on actual volunteering with lot of things. So for example, we run an old age home where we serve around 50 elderlies. We have 50 elderlies at our facility, and we felicitate them with all the facilities. So right from volunteering, planting trees, blood donation campaigns to studying leadership at Harvard. So that's been my journey, and I've been studying leadership at different spectrum, especially with young people, for last 7 years now. And best to my learning and my understanding of what real leadership, and if you want me to sum this up with a few words or sentence, I would say there are two important pillars of leadership. So first of all, you need to identify the self, right? You need to be more self-aware about it. And the second is the system that you are working in. The system might be anything. System might be your family, system might be the place you work at, or the society you live in. So when you can tune in the combination of the self and the system, and if you can diagnose the problem exactly like the medical people do, and now what I'm talking to you is pure science, right? So if you diagnose a problem, what leaders do is they identify a problem, and with the creative solutions, with their actions, they solve that problem. So this is more of a science behind leadership, but what I put it as the art of leadership is there are two keys of what I believe are the important spectrum of leadership. So one of the key is action, right? So whatever you think, whatever you believe is right, or whatever your principles, morals, or ethics allow you to do, you must take action on it. So you might have a brilliant idea of changing the world, but if you don't take any action on it, that idea is useless, right? So the first and foremost step that each of one listening to this podcast can do in their life is act, take some action, because only when you take some action, you don't have a problem. So those people who say, I have a problem, and they can do something about that problem, what I really say is they don't have a problem, but if you can take an action on it. And the second most important factor is service. So one of the most important, my life has changed through this, and that I had seen a lot of you can say alcoholism in my life, and I have been personally suffered through that. So while going through that existential crisis, I came across this amazing program called as a 12-step program. And this 12-step program is considered to be one of the most strongest, powerful, life-changing programs that is used at de-addiction center, which helps people to come out of addictions or change their life. And it's a powerful tool. It's a scientific tool. And out of those 12 steps, the first step is about accepting that you have a problem or there is a problem. And then there are different steps, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the 12th step of the 12-step program is service, which says that you have to make a commitment to help people around you to come out of problem. So regardlessly, if you do 1 to 11 in the 12-step program, it doesn't matter if you don't do the 12th one. If you follow 1 to 11, but if you don't do the 12th, the service part, if you don't commit yourself to help people around you, to add value into people around you or to the society that you live, the system you live in, then I think that's not true leadership. True leadership is about giving what you have to others, helping others, and adding value to the system that you live in.
Yeah, right from brushing your teeth example to all these points that you shared with us, I think the conversation is really interesting. But what I love the most is you said you have to accept the problem. The thing is, if you just you say that you're blinded, it doesn't mean that if the cat is not able to, if it puts its hands on its eyes and then he'll say that the cat is not in front of me. The thing is that we in India have this problem that we usually tend to ignore the problems that we have. And our focus always shifts to something which is not as big as a problem. So we always try to, this is a general nature of all of us, of humans, tendency to ignore the bigger problems and just to say, okay, it's okay, it's okay. So accepting is definitely a big principle, which is not only going to help you with leadership qualities, but also going to help you at your home, at a domestic level to deal with your family better, maybe. Thank you so much. And having said that, Yugant, I want to know, there are so many people who want to help society. Okay, personally, when I was very young, I saw a lot of people suffering on roadsides. I saw so many things that usually hurt me. Okay, that I'm living such a nice life and they're not that fortunate. I really want to help them. The thing that, what is the moment when you realize that you want to get into social entrepreneurship? Obviously, in during childhood, you must not be knowing what is social entrepreneurship. But what is that moment when you realized you want to help the society, and how did you go about it? The most important question is, what is the relation between leadership and social entrepreneurship? We're talking about two big topics. How are they interrelated according to you, as per your experience?
Yes. So if you ask about me, so I started my journey of life of working pretty early. So when I was 17, when I stepped into my graduation, I shifted to Pune for my further education from my hometown. And there, while seeing all the jazz of a big city, because I was coming from a smaller town comparatively to the Pune, I was pretty intrigued about how the world works. And then I started working, realizing that I need to do something, right? So I started with direct selling company into sales around for 3 years. And I made a good amount of money for a young guy of 18 to 19. And by the time I turned around 19, I started my first venture, which was a technical company. And then there we also had an opportunity to work with a lot of young people. And we had a huge group of people, a lot of fan following, you can say, a kind of people used to follow for a certain reason. And then I realized that, if people are trying to model a certain behavior or character, then why not if we can do this for good? So that's the first instance I realized. And then we started with small campaigns, as I told you. So we used to do small campaign for like tree plantations. We used to visit old age home facilities. We used to visit humble background school students, the ashram schools, or you can say. And we started with this group of all young people. We started doing campaign. So one of the campaign that we did was a 10-day awareness campaign on female feticide, the evil practices of female feticides in India. And that campaign was a turning point for us. because that's when I figured I met my mentor, and then he really guided me and enlightened me about the work we can do with the network of people that we have. And then we used that network of people to do good. So I started going to colleges, interacting with young people, telling them about leadership. And while doing this journey, I was also on the journey of learning more about leadership and social entrepreneurship. And throughout this journey, with different experiences of working with organizations, with different people, speaking at forums, I came to a realization that a mixed blend, what if we can create a hybrid model where we bring young people to do social good and make socially responsible leaders. And that's where we connected these two ideas of making socially responsible leaders. So through my organization, we run multiple projects. We run projects on gender equality, we run projects on environment, we run projects in education. So with different projects, so we have people who come with in whatever field they want to work in, we have an opening for them. And the opening is about giving a platform. It's a complete freedom. They can do anything within the guideline of the project. And that's where we ask them to explore themselves about their own potential of becoming a socially responsible leader. So that's the whole idea. I think it was not one turning point, but it's a continuous journey of everyday experiences that I had through the help of with the help of my mentors and the guides and books. I think I came to this blend of a hybrid model of working right now.
So you have adopted this hybrid model from hybrid qualities that you've been seeing in your life. Great, great answer. I think his whole answer was an inspiration to all the listeners who are listening to us right now. His entire answer was an inspiration, but work and network are the two words which even I wrote and highlighted. These need to be understood really well. So you need to have a good network and you need to work. Just like he said, you always have to act. And talking about Pune, I think Pavan would love to intrude here and share his experience and the next question, because Pune life is, I can't say anything about it.
Thank you, Lavpreet, for giving me the interview opportunity. So, Yugant, I have been in Pune as well. I had done my bachelor's in Pune from the Symbiosis School of Economics, which is next to your college institution.
Yeah.
So during my days in Pune, even we were exposed to all this, working at the ground level, understanding what is leadership all about. When we are asked to work at a lower level, go to the next nearby villages around Pune to talk to the villagers, understand economic problems, etc. So we gained a lot that way. So in my experience also, we've seen, whatever you just mentioned out, I was able to relate to it in a big way. So in that aspect, when we talk about leadership, we also talk about what can be a good leadership and what can be a bad leadership. So there can always be a contrast that can be drawn. So a bad leader, a bad leader in public may not always be as bad as he seems to be, and it can be vice versa for those who are appearing to be good. So in that context, what do you think is the difference? Where do we draw the line, according to you?
So I think the answer lies in the question you have asked, Pawan, right? And what we really need to do is draw the lines, right? And what we are failing to do is draw the lines. So see, we usually are very fascinated, especially our generation. See, I'm very young, right? I'm just 27, so I can say our generation. So especially our generation is very fascinated with new changes that's coming out, right? We have to agree with that. And the good part about this generation is we are so flexible, we are so agile that we adapt to the new trend very quickly. So for example, if you ask me, in my childhood days, I had seen a telephone, a landline, then a pager, then a mobile, and now smartphones, and now internet. Like, we are three unknown people, we are connecting through a Zoom call for a cause, right? And this is a technology that we all three have been adapted, and the listeners who want to listen will also adapt a part of this technology. So what this tells us about our generation is that we are very much adaptable to new trend that is coming. So we are very flexible. So that's in our nature, right? So a previous generation before us do not have this agility. They are not ready to adapt to the new change, right? And I think as good as this is for the good of our generation, this is also creating a lot of disruption, right? Uh, we get distracted, we get disfocused from our goals of the longer term, right? So we do not really have the clarity of life that what we really want to do. And because we do not have the clarity in life, we do not make a difference between the good and bad, right? So for most of us, the good and bad is what is seen through the newspapers or what media is pushing it in us, right? But when it comes to leadership, it's about choosing something, right? So as I always say, to become a good leader, you first need to become a good follower. If you cannot become a follower, you cannot become a good leader. And to become a good leader, you need to be, or to become a good follower, sorry, you need to have a role model of a good leader. So for example, if you ask me who are my role model, I would say Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam is my role model. I would say MS Dhoni is my role model of leadership. But if you ask it to many people, they would say Hitler is a role model for me, or they would say Mussolini was a role model for me, or most of the people say that Osama bin Laden was also a great leader. At least he had the characteristics of being a great leader. Or Hitler was a great orator. That's why he's a good leader. But we really need to understand a thin line between a good and bad, right? You cannot address a mass murderer as a leader. So you cannot choose himself as a role model for change, for leadership. So you also mentioned about the netas, and we mostly associate the identity of leadership in India with political people, and the political trend in India is pretty bad. The narrative of political scene in India is pretty bad. We associate them with corruption and a lot of foul practices and manipulation, right? And so nobody want to associate themselves with leadership these days. So we need to understand that there is a good side and the bad side of leadership. So it depends. As I said, it's a choice. It depends on what type of leaders do you choose as your role models. If you choose Nelson Mandela as your role model, if you choose Mahatma Gandhi as your role model, then I think absolutely their philosophies, their ideologies will blend you in a very different way than you choosing somebody. And also, when I say leaders, as I already mentioned, it do not just come with power or politics or authority. A simple human being you know in your life can also be your role model. For example, your father can be your role model. If you can really look after him the way he has worked all his life as a caregiver, as a provider, as a protector in your life, you can have him as your role model. So I think choosing right role models is very important thing. Now, just trying to sum up my answer with good and bad, we need to have a definite model of good and bad when it comes to leadership. And through one of the model which I made with, which we discovered with my mentor, Dr. Abhijit Pathak, there is one of the proprietary model which we deliver in corporates is called as the 3T model of leadership. And in the 3T model of leadership, we came across the idea of what is good leadership or leadership for good. And we derived that uh, through certain action, when a leader is taking a certain action, and in that particular action, if leader is growing and his followers are also growing in a particular sense, then that is a good, healthy transaction happening. But real leadership or the good leadership happens when the society also grows equally, right? So when some person does some action, and his action influences followers, and just not his follower, but it also has a positive impact on the society, that is where the real good leadership transaction is happening, right? For example, now if you want to identify a bad leadership transaction, what you can do is, so in particular action of a leader, he himself might be growing in his influence or his power or his authority. His followers might be also benefited, but the society on the large is not being benefited. That is not a good leadership, right? So I think with this answer, this was one of the part of our 3T's proprietary model. And I think with this formula, we would have defining guidelines to identify at least the good and the bad side of the leadership.
Well, I think a very good answer. And there's a fine line between a good orator and a good speaker and a good leader. mind this. Okay, this is good speaking is a trap. So you might get into that trap, and India is in that trap right now. Well, not commenting a lot about it. I think he gave a wonderful answer. Pawan, do you have something to add in it?
Yeah, just like to add just one bit. You have mentioned about the models of leadership, all that has come about. In fact, I remember this thing is taught to a lot of students and in their bachelors or anywhere. In terms of in this subject called public administration, where people are taught about Daniel Goleman's leadership styles, all of this, which is very obscure. People are not very understanding. People won't understand it unless it is something about what they can connect to in their circles. So I think it is essential we discuss. When we talk about leadership. We have to discuss it in our own circles, and we have to look at it from our eyes rather than look at it from some outsider's eyes. So
Right.
in that respect, I just like to ask you one final question. You can give it in a one answer. So what do you think is, if you would sum up Indian leadership in one word, what would it be?
One word. It's
So
a
you can
very
you
difficult
can
task.
let's say you can have it as very Indian style of leadership. So how do you define it in one word?
It's a trap, Pawan. It's a trap for him. For him.
See, I I see a bright future of India because I am optimistic about it. Uh, I, if you ask me about the present situation, if I would like to give my opinion on it, then I would say that we are already in mess. We are in soup, as per the leadership of the country. It might be anybody, but the way policies are driving right now, I would say uh, we are not the same. I mean, we have always led as an example of a secular country, a country in the world. Like, I have traveled a lot, and the way people perceive India's identity as a secular country, and they are very mesmerized, they are very amazed by just knowing that people of different color, different caste live peacefully, uh, together. And when you hear that from people abroad, I think I'm very much proud to be an Indian, and associate myself with this by associating myself with this country. Uh, I think we have a unique blend of something very unique, which should be protected and nurtured and cared for by people of us. And I think it's a responsibility of our leaders to protect that, which I see is going through a systematic failure, as I said, on a different terms. So, but I'm still hopeful. As I said, we might be the 1% of today, but we are 100% of tomorrow. So I see all these young people that I interact with, and also today, I see my hope within you guys also. You guys are the upcoming leaders of tomorrow, and I see a bright future for us. So that's there.
So basically, Yugant has this leaders producing manufacturing sort of a factory. So any one of you who is really keen about, in fact, all of us should be keen about working for our society. You can always, I think, contact Yugant. I'm going to contact him personally. I'm so mesmerized with whatever he said, regarding how he's actually developing leaders out there. And for those who think that the people who read books and the people who are into literature are usually philosophical, no, this is the example. They are practical because books play a big role. I think they play a big role in nurturing and shaping your character. The thing is that these days media is playing a big role in destroying it, unfortunately. But we can always look on to leaders like him who are opening a way for all of us to work on, and they are allowing us, giving us opportunities to work on our different levels. Well, yeah, you have already told about the future, but I still want to know, you can't, what specifically is the future of social entrepreneurship? As you were saying that you are the director of social working schools, and you are also providing some courses on social work. So what is the future, and how can a person go about it?
So this is a very interesting question, and I've been working recently a lot on this idea. So one of the things that I realized while working on all these ideas that I've been sharing, the different flagship projects and this, is in India, especially in the course of Indian context, if you want to bring any change, you need to institutionalize it, right? And if you can institutionalize a particular thing, then people really accept it in India. So to make your new idea more accepting, you need to institutionalize it. And I have been lucky enough that my father used to run institutions. So we have professional courses for social work. Not a lot of people know this, but there are professional courses of becoming a social worker, right? If you want to work in a space of social development, there are professional courses of it. So through my colleges, we have 2 colleges, and through these are full-time degrees. These are universities degrees, and you can be bachelors of social work, and you can also be a masters of social work. And there are a lot of interesting working opportunities also coming up. As we are economically growing, there are more social opportunities also. And so through these colleges, we are engaging young people with different agencies, giving them practical exposure. The curriculum is very dynamic. It's just not classroom bound, but they have to just attend 4 days in a class out of 5 days week, 3 days in the classroom, and 2 days they have to go on practical agency visits where they learn about social work. And they work with different social institutions like hospitals, like community centers, and NGOs, where they get practical exposure to the real world knowledge, which prepares them for the unknown possibilities of tomorrow. So this is what I'm currently doing right now. But we are shortly in process of making an international standard institution for delivering social work curriculum by being an autonomous status very soon. So hopefully in next 1 or couple of years, we are coming up with an institution in central India to felicitate this challenge. Also, to address and help lot of upcoming social entrepreneurs, we are also running a project called as Udyam, which is creating a network of incubation centers in Maharashtra. So I am in talk with the government of Maharashtra of making a policy for social work colleges where they introduce this facility of lean incubation centers. And we have created a model for it. So within the institutions that we are running, we are planning to start Central India's biggest social enterprise incubation center named as Udyam. So these are the current things that I'm currently working on. I would love to invite through this podcast a lot of young people who want to professionally change this field and enter into the spectrum of social development. I think this is a great opportunity for you that you can practically connect to something like this.
You see, Pavan is after all an entrepreneur. So I was expecting this, no doubt. Well, having said that, I really wish I would have met you 4 years back. For those who apparently think that they're going to regret their engineering degrees after 4 years, please don't do that. Think about it. Think about it in class 12 itself. What do you want to do? What drives you? And get into a good institution with a good degree and try to do something positive in your life, because this is a great opportunity. If I knew that there was bachelor's in social work, I would probably have jumped into it without any doubt. So all of you in class 12, please rethink your choices in life. Having said that, I think we are reaching the end of the podcast. I really hope that it would continue for throughout the night. I'm enjoying it a lot, Yugant. Thank you so much for being such a good orator and a leader. Well, what's your message for the youth to end this?
Well, my message, if you ask me, it's very simple, and it's to be curious. Be curious as much as you can. Question everything that you do in your life every day. Questions about the dynamics that you work with. Question to the people that you work with. Not in a way where you harm them, but in a progressive way, in a very pragmatic way, where you yourself can learn. So I think having that curiosity question, as Pawan was mentioning, there are a lot of leadership models, Daniel Goleman, Bertrand Russell, we have big philosophers, big people working about Peter Drucker, about leadership, Robin Sharma, and so many people, to tell us about leadership. But I want you to embrace this challenge. I want you to embrace every opportunity that you get in every day in your life to help people around you, to serve them. Because when you serve them, you really understand a different, you have that feeling of contentment. And with that feeling, you really you open each door to the hidden potential that you have. So if you really want to unleash your potential, your abilities, you need to serve. And if you can serve, with curiosity, with understanding, with addressing the small challenges in front of you. I think that's one key takeaway that I would like to tell you from today's podcast. And to end this podcast, I am again very thankful for host for having me here, to give me this opportunity to speak to young people. And also I would like to say this is my first ever video appearances. A lot of people, a lot of my friends have asked me to make videos on leadership, and to speak or record videos even when I'm doing. So I think this lockdown, one of the things that have really done to me is take out the fear of that camera that I have. I'm very camera conscious though. I think it's a learning for me as well. So again, thank you guys for having me. It was a wonderful experience from speaking with you, and I really look forward to see you guys again, hopefully as leaders somewhere, someday in this beautiful world.
Thank you, Yugant. You've been pretty well with the podcast. Let me tell you this. Let me clear your doubt. You've done amazing. And the second thing is what he told, that in life, happiness and contentment is a common goal. Regardless of whatever we want to achieve in life, happiness is something which all of us want to achieve. And there's nothing better than that feeling of contentment and satisfaction when you actually do save up, when you actually serve someone without seeking any profits. You might get a profit, of course. There are profits in social work also. This is a misconception that they don't earn and they live like jogis, nothing like that. But again, serving someone gives you the sort of happiness that you need in life. So friends, just remember 3 words: observe, act, and create a good network. That's what I think was the best part of this conversation. Of course, Yugant's experiences were all amazing, but these 3 words, I've learned them and I'm going to imbibe them in me for the rest of my life. Pawan, do you want to add something and then we can end this?
That's it. I have nothing to add. You can conclude.
Pawan is speechless. Okay, great. My co-host is speechless now, so I'm here to end this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Yugant, thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule. You have given us a lot of insights, and I think all of us are inspired now, and you're going to get a lot of calls and emails. By the way, make sure you're going to get a lot of them, and you have to have to help all of us with this. Well, thanks all of you for being with us. All of you are liking the video podcast. We'll think about expanding this even more if we have amazing guests like Yugant for the next time. Till then, take care of yourself, be positive, and take care of your families as well. Don't feel disheartened because of Corona. It's going to go, and all of us are going to shine and be happy and be in life back again. Till then, stay tuned with us. Do like, share, and subscribe, and take care. Bye-bye.